Hello and welcome to Progressive Education Society's Modern College of Pharmacy, Nigri, Pune. Dr. Bhushan Pimple. There will be a series of videos wherein we will be covering the implementation of pharmacovigilance systems for herbal medicine as per the WHO guidelines on safety monitoring of herbal medicines in pharmacovigilance. Contents of the entire guidelines are introduction, pharmacovigilance and WHO International Drug Monitoring Program, challenges in monitoring this pharmacovigilance in for herbal medicines, then safety monitoring of herbal medicines, and lastly communication as to how to monitor the pharmacovigilance throughout the processing of herbal medicines. So particularly in this video, we will be dealing with the first 2 points, that is general introduction and pharmacovigilance and WHO International Drug Monitoring Program. About the introduction of pharmacovigilance, first we will understand why there is need of pharmacovigilance. Generally, it is a common belief that natural products are safe and they are non-toxic. And this belief is well rooted in all the common public of any society, irrespective of the whether it is developing or underdeveloped society. All they have complete belief on natural medicines. Alternatively, um, sorry, moreover, there are a few alternative systems of medicines established years ago in various countries like China, India, or even Africa and Greek. So all these medicine systems, they generally promote the natural drugs and have been treating to the patients from since years. But it is well documented and scientifically proven that some herbs are toxic if the dose is changed, if the drug is misidentified. In that case, it becomes toxic. Besides, we have also learned about the interaction of herbal drugs with the synthetic drugs. So what if a patient is consuming both kind of drugs, one based upon the alternative system and the other which has been prescribed by the modern medicine physician? So these two drugs are bound to interact with each other and can act synergistically, antagonistically, or can nullify each other. There are chances that even if the drug acts and cures an ailment, it can leave behind certain adverse effects which can be harmful. Sometimes these harmful or adverse effects can be fatal as well. Moreover, the drugs which are procured from nature are usually contaminated with hazardous substances such as toxic metals which are absorbed from the soil. The geographical region where the drugs have been cultivated, uh, the soil can insert certain toxic elements like lead, arsenic, cadmium and all into the herbal substances. It can also be loaded with pathogenic microorganisms because the drugs, usually herbal drugs, they contain moisture. And wherever moisture is present, there are chances that microorganism colonize there. Um, the herbal drugs not only contain moisture, but they do also contain certain starch or carbohydrate components. So this becomes an attractive agent for development of the microorganisms. The for increasing the yield of herbal drugs, the pesticides or certain fertilizers are sprayed which gives out a good morphological yield, but about the phytoconstituent, about the concentration, yield of the phytoconstituent, it directly affects the buildup of phytoconstituent, or it can also insert unwanted chemicals into the plant. So if you are consuming herbal drugs, there are chances that these toxic metals, microorganisms, or agrochemicals can be administered unknowingly into the body of the patient or healthy consumer in case of nutraceuticals. So there is a need to monitor how this cultivation occurs, how the processings occur, how the manufacturing is done for herbal medicine, and how it has been distributed into the society. Objectives of these guidelines is to support the member states. Now, member states here means the countries who are a member of WHO. Currently, there are 170 countries who are the members of WHO, and also the WHO International Drug Monitoring Program. It also has certain list of countries who are the member. So in order to spread awareness and strengthen the national pharmacovigilance capacity at the country level, these guidelines have been framed, which can give effective safety monitoring of herbal medicines to the countries. They also provide technical guidance. These guidelines give up the technical guidance on the principle as to how pharmacovigilance has to be carried out. That means good pharmacovigilance practices can be understood by these guidelines, and inclusion of herbal medicine in the existing national drug safety monitoring system. Currently, most of the countries, they have the pharmacovigilance guideline, but those are restricted only to synthetic drugs. As far as herbal drugs are concerned, normally most of the countries, although they are the members, but they have not yet implemented. So in order to, if a country wants to implement the pharmacovigilance practices to the herbal drug, they can follow these guidelines. And where the systems are not in place, that means when they are yet to be implemented, these guidelines can facilitate establishment of an inclusive national drug safety monitoring system in order to curb the problems associated with herbal drugs. They also provide standard definitions which are worldwide accepted, especially the terminologies related to pharmacovigilance and safety monitoring of herbal drugs. They do promote and strengthen the internationally coordinated information exchange on PV. That means if a country which is a remote, let's say suppose a remote African country has developed, is able to, or it is striving to develop certain PV guidelines, but it is facing certain problems, then it can approach to WHO. WHO will concern with different countries, certain developed countries, or you can say the countries who have implemented the guidelines from years ago, or who are more experienced in it, or the expertise members can be involved here in order to promote and strengthen this implementation throughout the globe. These guidelines also promote the safe and proper use of herbal medicines. Most of the time it has been observed that herbal medicines are misidentified and then consumed. So it can cause the accumulation of unwanted phytochemicals into the body. So also the different alternative systems of medicines, they process the herbal drug in different manner. So there is a need to implement these guidelines in order to promote the safe and proper usage of herbal medicine. Well, here we will have a look at the common terminologies that we will be coming across throughout the chapter. Adverse reaction. Now, what is an adverse reaction? Uh, Generally, we understand adverse reaction is commonly called as side effect. But as per the definition of adverse reaction, it is a response to a drug that is noxious and unintended. That means it is not safe, and the response is also not intentional one. It is unwanted response. Now this response that occurs that at a dose normally used in humans for prophylaxis, diagnosis, or therapy of disease, or for the modification of physiological function. Now, to understand this adverse reaction in a much better way, we will take an example of paracetamol. Usually, paracetamol is administered in the form of 400 milligram tablet or 500 milligram tablet. Now, this dose is common for all adults. Now, certain individuals can develop adverse reaction, not all, but certain individuals who are able to develop the side effect or adverse reaction at this dose, that is 400 or 500 mg, this kind of symptom will be called as adverse reaction. This reaction should specifically occur at the normal human doses. These reactions do not cover the problems associated with heavy dosing or poisoning of the drug. Poisoning of the drugs are not called as adverse reaction. Next, unexpected adverse reaction. Now, this adverse reaction, it varies or differs from the earlier one, that is adverse reaction. And how does it differs is this the nature or severity of the adverse reaction is not consistent. That means in a same individual the symptoms vary, or the symptoms vary in different individuals also, with domestic labeling or market authorization, or expected from the characteristic of drug. Let us take an example of paracetamol again. Here, if you read the label of any paracetamol tablet, you will nowadays they are been writing different adverse reaction, like say, suppose it can cause liver cirrhosis. So this is an adverse reaction. Now, if a person consuming paracetamol is showing altogether a different adverse reaction which has not been written on the label, or not written in the pamphlet provided with the drug, or it has not been seen or observed throughout its clinical trial, now that will be called as an unexpected adverse reaction. We will take a simple example of again paracetamol. If you are consuming paracetamol and if you are feeling if you can observe hair loss, in that case this becomes unexpected adverse reaction, because none of the pamphlet of paracetamol contains the adverse reaction in the list as hair fall. But if a person is observing this, that means it becomes unexpected adverse reaction. Even the unexpected reaction can be from, say, suppose if it is not related with the mechanism of the action of the drug, that means it is not expected from the characteristic of the drug. The paracetamol is not going to accumulate, or in any chance there is no chance that paracetamol can cause hair loss, but still if a person is experiencing it, that becomes unexpected adverse reaction. Now next is a signal. Signal means generally this term is we see it at traffic signal. Signal means directions either to stop or to proceed. Similarly, here signal means these are the reported information on possible causal relationship between an adverse event and a drug. Here, the relationship being unknown or incompletely documented previously. Now, let us take an example. So, suppose a person is consuming paracetamol and uh, there are certain, suppose, deaths observed due to consumption of paracetamol, and these deaths are that means on this post-mortem study, the liver is not found to be affected. Liver is normal, but still there are death, and the reason is not known, or sometimes the death can be because of kidney disease. Now, if paracetamol is not getting accumulated or not adversely affecting the function of kidney, and still in certain countries if you observe that persons or people are dying due to kidney diseases after consumption of paracetamol, in that case this is called as a signal. Signal means these are the adverse reactions which have not yet documented anywhere throughout the clinical studies. These are even the relationship, that is how paracetamol is causing kidney disease, is not known, is not scientifically proven, or there is no established mechanism. In that case, it becomes a signal. Usually, more than a single report is required to generate a signal. That means only a single individual is showing this kind of symptoms. That will not aid in generating signal. Minimum more than one a report is required to generate a signal. Then and then only the WHO will place this signal on its website, and it will alarm all the countries that see to it that any of your individual who are consuming paracetamol are suffering from the kidney diseases or not, or it can ask to amend the list of adverse reaction. The actions will be taken by WHO, and that we are discussing in the later slides. That means depending upon the seriousness of the event and the quality of the information, this signal is generated. Generally, fatality is concerned, and the cause of fatality, if it is unknown, and only if the person is consuming paracetamol and the death has occurred, in that case their the signal can be generated. Spontaneous reporting, this is the term again we will be coming across many a times in this chapter. Spontaneous reporting means a system wherein case reports of adverse drug events are voluntarily submitted by health professional or pharmaceutical manufacturer to national regulatory authority. Now understand that India is one of the member country of this health monitoring program, or pharmacovigilance, implementation of herbal in pharmacovigilance in herbal drugs. It is one of the member. Now, if few of the health professionals, that is doctors or nurses or pharmacists, if they voluntarily submit an adverse reaction or adverse event to the national regulatory authority. In our case, it can be the consumer forum. It can also be National Poison Center. It can also be FDA, or it can also be certain uh, health monitoring authorities in the Indian continent country. Sorry, and certain pharmaceutical manufacturers events, like say suppose the companies who are conducting clinical trial, they are also able to generate this spontaneous reporting, and this spontaneous reports of adverse reactions should be directly submitted to national regulatory authority. Here national regulatory authority means national pharmacovigilance center also. Here, just have a look that the spontaneous reporting are generally and voluntarily submitted. Voluntarily means before asking or without any expectation. If the doctor, nurses, or pharmacists, or even the drug manufacturing company, if it is submitting to the national PV center, that becomes national or spontaneous reporting. Next, what is exactly pharmacovigilance? Now, why I have kept this slide at the end is because first we need to know what is the need, why there is a need or to study such kind of chapter in pharmacy. Then we have studied about the various terminologies. Now, what is pharmacovigilance? Vigilance means to monitor. Vigilance, this term has been taken from the patrolling during night by the police, is called as vigilance. So here also, if the health professional, they are keeping, if they are able to keep a proper eye on the production, distribution, and marketing of the drug and as its associated adverse effect, then it will be termed as pharmacovigilance. That means complete monitoring of the drug. It is the science and activities related to detection of adverse reaction, then assessment of adverse reaction, then understanding of the adverse reaction, how it has occurred, and also prevention of these adverse reaction, as how this adverse reaction can be prevented. um, this the understanding of detection, assessment, understanding of these adverse reaction, and prevention of adverse reaction of the drug or any other possible drug related problems are called as pharmacovigilance. Previously, this PV was applicable only for synthetic drugs, but nowadays it has widened its scope, and now it is found to be applied to herbal drugs, traditional and complementary medicines also, blood products like platelets or certain enzymes related to the blood, then biologicals, medical devices or surgicals, then vaccines, and manufacturers to national regulatory authority. So all these sectors have now been implemented or now have been taken in the same umbrella of pharmacovigilance. Many other issues are also of importance to this science of pharmacovigilance, like substandard medicine provision, distribution, or production of substandard medicines and identification of these substandard medicines. Similarly, medication error, that means the error can occur due to misdiagnosis. The error can occur due to fault in the flaws in the prescription or flaws in the identification of the drug. So, lack of efficacy report, then use of medicines for indications that are not approved and for which there is inadequate scientific base. Like say, suppose again, if a person is consuming paracetamol because he wants the effect that is not approved by by WHO or FDA. In that case, that can come under the purview of PV. Then case report of acute and chronic poisoning. Many a times the poisonings are not reported, or there is no report about the acute or chronic poisoning, but the to generate awareness about how to report and what are the symptoms that are to be reported, this PV is helpful. Then also for assessment of drug related mortality, there are chances that in certain areas mortality can occur due to consumption of drug or administration of drug. Now once there are deaths reported, in that case assessment as to whether the mortality is solely because of the drug or because of wrong administration of drug, or is it because of co-administration of certain drugs, that assessment is to be carried out. Then abuse and misuse of medicines. Certain hallucinogenic drugs or CNS depressants are generally found to be abused or misused for wrong purposes. So this is also an important factor to be considered. Then adverse reaction interactions of medicine with chemicals or other medicines and food. That means herb drug interaction, food drug interaction, or drug drug interactions are to be carried out or are to be studied in order to make this flow of herbal medicine smooth and safe. What are the basic objectives of pharmacovigilance are to improve patient care and safety. Then to improve public health and safety. That means health of the entire zone, entire area, entire population as far as administration of drug is concerned. Then to contribute to assessment of benefit, harm, effectiveness, and risk of medicine. Then to encourage their safety, rational, and more effective use. Also, it includes the uh, reduction in the cost of the drug. It also promotes understanding and educating the PV personals and the public at large for clinical training and and also the doses and administration of the drug. Now, how does this pharmacovigilance operates practically? Is there is a centralized body which is called as apex body, and that is WHO, International Drug Monitoring Program. Now this body has another sub body called as Uppsala Monitoring Center. Now, this is the center that is in coordination with various national pharmacovigilance centers of different countries. Currently, or up to last year, there were 70 countries who are the part of this WHO International Drug Monitoring Program. Uh, Now, this Uppsala Monitoring Committee and National Pharmacovigilance Centers, they communicate with each other in order to spread awareness, communicate the signals and adverse drug reaction with different member bodies. So this is how the pharmacovigilance operates. At the top, there is WHO International Drug Monitoring Program, which has authorized Uppsala Monitoring Center to communicate with various national PV centers. Now, what are the basic functions of national pharmacovigilance centers? Is to collect the reports of suspected adverse reactions of on the market, the drugs which are there on the market. It collects the reports from various health professionals or distributors of herbal medicines or even pharmaceutical companies, manufacturers. Assessment of the case report as to how the mortality or adverse reaction has appeared. That means as far as quality of the documentation is concerned, that means whether the name of the person or the exact symptom of the adverse reaction, then casualty assessment, the number of deaths or mortality, then coding to international standards using either anatomical, therapeutic, chemical classification. Now, this is similar to a dictionary which has been published by WHO for proper nomenclature of the symptom or disease. Then there is another booklet called as adverse reaction classification. Once the adverse reactions are there, what is the exact adverse reaction? The WHO adverse reaction terminology, which is commonly called as WHO ART. Now, whatever the adverse reactions have been written or in the report, the role of National PV Center is to convert it as per the classification. Medical Dictionary for Drug Regulatory Activities, that is MedDRA. So the national PV centers, they follow either of these or sometimes all the three in order to classify the symptom or classify the adverse reaction or classify the disease. Then they also check whether there is any clinical relevance of this drug and its adverse reaction. That means whether the drug can block certain enzyme and cause such reactions, or what is the exact mechanism they are going to identify this. Then quality control, as far as the identification of duplicate reports is concerned. Quality control means here there are chances that if a person, if there are a few casualties uh, after consumption of the drug, then there are chances that number of people may submit the adverse drug reaction, like uh, the doctor, nurse, pharmacist, or any other person or the relatives of the patient, they all can submit the documents. Now there are chances that all will contain the same name. XYZ has exhibited adverse reaction. If all the four documents is showing the same name, that means it will be duplication of report. Instead, it will not show four different individuals have died due to consumption, but a single individual. But only the form or the reports are uh, um, appear reports have been submitted to a national PV center by four different individuals, and the patient is the same. So quality control, as far as this duplication of report or identification is concerned, or even transmission in a suitable format to the UMC Uppsala monitoring committee. That means once the reports have been obtained, the reports can be in local languages. The reports can be of different writings. So conversion of these languages into exact MedDRA coding, WHO ART coding, or ATC classification, and submitting the reports in English format to the UMC as per the format designed by UMC. Other functions include generation of hypothesis as to how the drug interaction or adverse reaction might have occurred, then identification of assessed signals, then like suppose if the signal has been generated, what should be the cause, what is the probable cause of this signal that is to be identified. Then these activities may strengthen by a search of WHO global database. WHO on its website have maintained a database that is managed by UMC, and a person or individuals working in National PV Center can search this database or website to check whether similar events have occurred previously, not in their country but somewhere else in other countries or so. So such kind of data mining should be done. Communication of relevant safety information to national and regional regulatory authorities. This national PV centers, they will communicate with the either national uh, um, drug regulatory authorities, or like FDA, or particular countries regulatory authority, or even the regional authority, like the medical systems associated with a particular geographical location, or even health professionals, pharmaceutical companies, and other players who are involved in this system. It also further investigates the signal, risk factors, or pharmacological mechanism. That means once the report appears to National PV Center, it will no doubt communicate with UMC, but it will keep on searching about this particular reaction, adverse drug reaction or signal, or it will keep on investigating in this matter continuously. Then receipt and communication as appropriate of safety information resulting from various analysis. That means once the UMC has given certain guidelines, after communication to UMC, UMC will give certain acknowledgement, or it will uh, give back certain suggestion to the national PV center. Then communication of these suggestions to the health professionals, or the whoever has generated the report. This receipt and communication is also one of the uh, function of national PV center. Provision of feedback to the reporter. Once the report has been received, in that case, the first feedback is to, yes, acknowledge the reporter that we have received your report. Second, about the flaws or deficiency in the report, if at all certain parameters if are not filled by the reporter, or if there are chances that sometimes the report is uh, incomplete. So to get the report completed is also the function of National PV Center. Then timely advice to healthcare professionals and consumers on drug safety issues by educating and training these healthcare professionals or consumers. So these are the basic functions. Also, sharing of the information at regional and global levels as to about the adverse drug reaction and signals is the function of National PV Center. So far, we have discussed about the functions of national PV centers. Now, function of Uppsala Monitoring Committee. The role of this committee is to the members who are involved, or the staff working in this Uppsala Monitoring Committee will be receiving and storing the reports obtained from national PV centers of all the countries. They also will provide the necessary facilities in order to make the national PV centers search the WHO global database. That means they will be maintaining the global WHO database as to which country has reported what kind of signals, or what signals are now nullified, or what are the amendments to be carried out for a particular drugs, like a dosing regimen, should it be changed, or should the drug be used or implemented for treatment of another disorder, or can whether there are certain uh, precautionary measures associated with the drug as to who should consume it and who should not consume it, like for example pediatric patients, or pregnant ladies, or sometimes geriatric. They should they consume it, or is there any teratogenic property associated with it? Everything will be reported by the UMC and will be communicated to National PV Center. Further, the aim is to generate the signal from the throughout global database. Whatever has been generated, they will keep on popping the signals so as to notify all the member countries, that is national PV centers, as well as any other country who is even not the part of this healthcare system. Even they will be assisted with the generation of these signals. Communication of signal analysis to national PV centers and clinical review of analysis by the experts. That means these UMC will appoint certain experts in order to analyze the signals generated and what is the probable cause of these signal, how the signals can be treated, how the signals can be prevented, and what all should precautionary measures should be taken in order to subsidize or reduce the signal generation. All such and detailed analysis and its preventive measures will be dealt with experts appointed by the UMC. Provision of technical assistance to national PV center. Now technical assistance in sense whether the how to access the WHO database, how to data search a particular drug, or what are the various data mining techniques, what are the different trainings required for these national personnels working in national PV centers, and periodic updation and upgradation of their knowledge. Uh, these are the various assistance, technical assistance given by the UMC. Then facilitation of communication between the countries. So suppose a signal is generated in African country and it is not read or dealt or sensed by a country, Japanese country or Indian country. So UMC here serves as a mediator in order to facilitate the communication between these countries. Whether such kind of signals have even been reported in India or Japan, then they will help the African country how they have reduced signal generation or how they have coped up with this kind of signals in their countries. Maintenance and development of WHO ART. Now, since it is a database, or we can call it as a dictionary or terminology, then a maintenance of these terminologies and development in sense addition or deletion or alteration or to the terminologies involved in WHO ART, and also the usage of MedDRA within WHO International Drug Monitoring Program. That means these UMC personnel will take care whether WHO ART and MedDRA are being involved in report generation, or whether these two databases are maintained properly or not, or whether are there any developments in this WHIRT. Whatever are the developments will necessarily be communicated with the involved countries. Training of national PV personnel, then standardization of procedures relating to PV activities. There are various steps, protocols and processes that are to be followed step by step in order to achieve better vigilance over these drugs. So the periodic standardization, or we can call it as setting of SOP, standard operating procedures, as far as PV activities are concerned, is monitored by UMC. Then publication of relevant documents, the documents which involve the list of adverse drug reactions observed for a new drug entity, or list of certain signals which have been reported by certain countries. These are published in various periodicals or journals or certain newspapers or through various media communication devices. Then provision of the data as appropriate to other parties. Provision of data in sense the severity, the PK/PD studies, if at all they are carried out for a particular signal or adverse drug reaction, the data associated with that ADR is to be provided to other parties in sense pharmaceutical drug manufacturing companies, or it can even be National Poison Center, or sometimes it can be the if it is a case pending in the court wherein there are the results have to be declared, then if at all the police or court require certain data, then this data should be provided by the UMC or even to National PV Center. Generally, UMC deals with the National PV Center, and it provides the data to National PV Centers, and the National PV Centers then they provide it to various companies or other parties involved. So these are the functions of UMC. Lastly, here we today will have a look at the various players involved in PV system pharmacovigilance of the drug, may it be a synthetic drug or a herbal drug. The various personnels involved are doctor, physicians, that is, then it can be dentists, then even pharmacists and nurses are the qualified health professionals which are providers of medicine. Then researchers who are carrying out the research at an institute or an academic level, for even those are the players. Players in sense the personnels involved in the PV system. Then media writers, the various media personnels or even journals are also involved in this. Then pharmaceutical industries, national and regional drug regulatory authorities, patients or consumers are also the part of this system, because these are the basic generators of the reports, or they are complainants. Then lawyers, poison centers, drug information center, and international and regional health organizations set out by various geographical countries or geographical regions. So these are the players involved in uh, carrying out the effective implementation of pharmacovigilance in various systems of medicines. So similar will be the players for herbal drug pharmacovigilance of herbal drugs.